Welcome back. I've spent a bit of time just passing through some of the other kind of textures. Again, kind of basic stuff. I'm not really doing the shadows just yet with the rest of them, just because it takes a lot of time. And once you know the process of one of the items, you can do it in all of them. So you can see here, I've got a little bit of color on my clock. There is some color to this. It's just a little bit unseeable at the minute, but we're going to change that later on. And I've got my clock. You see, I've just to create that kind of wood effect at the top here, I just use that fiber trick again, just as what I did for the desk. And it kind of looks a little bit tacky, looks a little bit kind of artificial, and that's exactly what I want. Now you're going to notice this as well. This will kind of come into play a little bit later on, but this means something. Okay, and basically what that is just I've just duplicated a face away from the surface there and turn it red. You'll see what happens with that in a bit. And I've added some basic closer stuff. Cool. So what I've done is I've exported that, sent it into Sketchfab, and now I've got the scene here. So in my materials, I've got all these different materials, all these different attributes here, these Lamberts. And what I'm going to do is first just kind of set the scene. So I want to get my background color to straight black. And I'm going to change my lighting to, at first, I'm just going to go shadeless. And then, cool, yeah, cool. So in materials, just whatever the first one is, which in this case is these two books. I'm just going to come bring in all the diffuse textures that I've got at the minute, all the JPEGs I've got. Like that. There. So basically, I can then go through and just put the right texture on the right thing. So this might take a little bit of time, but it's a lot of what you take your time on something and it's going to pay off. Basic, really. So I'm just taking my time, making sure that I'm applying these properly, making sure that I'm keeping everything clean, keeping everything organized. If I end up not using something, I'm going to get rid of it. So let's go through, get everything. So I've got shadeless on at the minute. So shadeless is a shading type which doesn't have any lighting in the scene. So you can see here, these are both white objects, but because there's no lights in the scene, we're not seeing any shadows or highlights. So they become essentially silhouettes. The shading that we're seeing here has been produced by the texturing we've done so far. So you can see here, this gray is just very, very flat. That's purely just down to the fact that I've not got any shading on this. So you can see there. Now, hopefully, I've done my job right. And, oh, I've not actually done something. Okay. So we'll have to just jump back into Photoshop and rejig something, because I've not actually saved out my textures from my lamp. So you can see that's my lamp texture. So I'm going to just export this for the time being. I'm probably going to end up futzing with my lamp quite a lot. So lamp diff. And then I'm also going to, while I'm here, make an opacity group. And in this, what I'm going to do is decide everything that's going to be visible and everything that's going to be invisible. So if I do this, no, not pink, white, there we go. And then I'm going to turn the glass UV black. Because you're going to see what I've done in a minute. Hopefully it works. So turn that off, export these as my lamp opaque. So I jump back into here, nope, there we go. And let's have to bring in this new textures. Where are those getting saved to? Okay, so somewhere my saves have got a little bit mixed up, and I'm doing saves in places where they shouldn't be, but that's fine. Okay. Have to clean that up anyway. Boom. Turn my opacity on there. I'm just going to bring in that opacity map because I really want to see if this works first. Okay. That's looking okay. You might be thinking, well, yeah, but what's the point? Right, so at the very bottom of this materials menu, I've got face rendering. And by default, it's set to double-sided, which means if we see the back face of something, it's going to be visible. We're going to see it. So if I look underneath this book, we see the back faces of those pages. But if I turn single-sided on, yes, there we go. Basically, we stop seeing, at least on this material anyway, we stop seeing the back faces. So what we're seeing here is the inside. You can see here, we're seeing the concave shape, or the circular shape of the bottom of the lamp at the top of the lamp. That's what I wanted to happen. And I'm only doing it on this one material, which is very, very good. Now when I go back to shaded mode, this is going to kind of hopefully start making a bit more sense. A lit. Oh, so a few things I'm just going to sort out with that. Okay. Okay. Right, so we've got it in here. Oh, I've got one more map to bring in, which hasn't been brought in. And that's also an opacity map. That's the one from my table, my table. So let's go grab that. So you can see there is sometimes a lot of back and forth. There we go. My lighting's a bit crap at the minute. That's fine. Let's turn down the shadows a little bit there. Okay. So I'm gradually starting to build my scene. Cool. So I'm not going to be worried too much about getting it perfect just yet, because my texturing is going to kind of help me decide the quality of the lighting, or if even I change the lighting to something different, or if I go to the normal lighting effects up here, so turn off environmental lighting and use this lighting. This all depends on what happens. So for now, I'm just going to turn on a very basic lighting setup with very low brightness. Okay, right, so back to it. I've got stuff in here. This is also indicating some stuff I've missed out, so I will have to technically upload this file again, but I'm not changing anything, so everything should just essentially reapply itself. If not, I'd have to go through reapply stuff. It's not that bad. It's just this bit here. I'm seeing the faceted edges down here. I'm gonna have to fix that, and up there. It's just something I've missed out, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm not going to worry at all. Cool. So now is the time for me to actually start kind of doing some additional map work. So what's going to happen with the spec map? What's going to happen with all these different things? So it's not spec map, sorry. It's roughness and stuff. So sorry, I got an email emailing me. I got a student emailing me. Sorry. There you go. So right, if I go back to Photoshop. Yeah. That's going to go my lamp pack. Yep. We all know that's good. Cool. So let's come to my clock, because this is the one where I'm most excited about. So here we can see that I've got my texture. Everything is mainly black, and then I've got the wood, and then I've got this big red block down here. Focus my roughness. See here that I wanted this to be kind of rough, but I've also kind of pushed back some of the wood grain in there to hopefully be a bit darker. But again, I'm going to kind of probably go in and change some of that up. The darker areas here is obviously going to be a little bit shinier, and the lighter area is going to be rougher. So all the rougher areas here, or the lighter areas, sorry, are like rough plastic, where all the darker areas are like more shinier plastic. Then I got my opacity map. Now this one I've just started working on, so it's not finished just yet. You've got this down here, so hopefully this is going to kind of tell you what I'm going to do. However, if I was to apply this to the object, all that would be left behind is just this, because everything else on the object is black, which shouldn't be. The rest of the object is physically there, so it should be white. The only bit I'm going to make black is this little square here. So here we go. Start filling in the rest of it with white. Cool. Save that out. So I'm trying to get myself used to using the quick shortcut for the export, just so I stop going into the file menu. The quick shortcut is the hotkey is Control Shift Alt and W, and that gets me to here, so I can export this as a JPEG, DigiClock, full pack. Then I'm also going to come in here. I'm going to make one more additional map. I'm going to have this image. I just saw this wrong. What I'm going to do is have this be completely black, but then grab this layer with the red on it, and bring it up there. I'll save this out. As my DigiClock emiss. It's my emission. So if I jump back into here, again, I'm going to jump in here, start bringing in some additional stuff. So let's bring in that opacity map. So DigiClock opace. So boom, you can see what I'm going for here. Awesome. Now there's one reason why I've done it as a separate layer to not just texture it on the surface. It's because I'm going to have a little bit of parallax in there. I don't know if you can tell on the screen, but definitely on my screen here, it's looking like it's slightly raised off the surface. This is what I want. Because how these clocks work is it's another screen which has the numbers or letters applied to it. Okay. And also I've just realized that it'd either be AM or PM. I think I need to lower them down a little bit, so I can fix that up in a sec. And then I got that emission I did. So I'm going to turn on emission. I'm going to bring my emission map I've just made. So import that as well. Boom. So you can see the difference there. Very, very cool. So now that kind of glows a little bit more. I'm also going to come back and do the same thing for my lamp. So if I come back in here, bring my lamp, boom, make a new layer group. So you can see I'm making big jumps in my texturing, big decisions very, very quickly. Very quickly. But it's all very, very simple stuff I'm doing as well. Not everything needs opacity. Not everything needs an emission. I'm only using it on certain things to generate certain kind of intensities or certain effects. So I'm going to save this out as my lamp emiss. So I'll go in there, bring the emiss in. Smash it. So I'm starting to get everything I want to be working. So I've got my lamp, which is going to be glowing a little bit. I've got my clock, which is glowing a little bit. I can come in here and do a little bit of post-processing early on. I can come in here and do bloom. And what I can do is just push it up a little bit so that if I buff everything up, everything gets super like misty, which I don't really want because everything's kicking off bloom. I don't want that. I also don't want the bloom to be super, super harsh, like super big like this. So just bring down the intensity a little bit, bring down the radius. The radius just being basically the throw of this emission. Keep the intensity quite high, actually. My threshold, bring that down a little bit. Radius intensity. There we go. Nice. Turn that off. So early on, I can decide to do a few little bits of tweaking. You know, I can do some nice depth of field stuff. Maybe add a bit of sharpness. Maybe, you know, some chromatic aberration, my favorite. Add a tinge of that in there. So it's all starting to get a little bit nice. I'm going to jump in and do some other work on stuff, just work through my scene a little bit. So my mission, I'm happy with that. I can just shut that. My opacity, I'm happy with that. I can just shut that. My roughness. Okay, let's say about my roughness. Boom. Digicarc. Roughness. Get that out. Jump back in. Find my roughness. Oh, make sure I'm on roughness, not glossness. Oh, sorry, I'm on my. So make sure I'm on that. There we go. There we go. Manage textures, import. Let's find that Digicarc roughness. Add that in. So now we should start getting like a bit of an effect here. And I can use a slider just to kind of get an idea. As I pan around, so that's looking nice. So you can see how that wood grain's actually working really nice. I'll turn off the post-processing for now. You can see how the wood grain's working really, really nice. And even down to like the separation between certain things, like as I've kept some of the buttons shiny when they're on a rough surface, kind of gives that nice visual separation like there. Very nice. The frame around there is nice and shiny. Very, very simple. I'm just quite happy with that. Will I tweak that? I don't know. Maybe I can push the roughness levels down a little bit to make it rougher. Maybe push the shiny levels up a little bit to make it shinier. It's up to me, really. So it's how I kind of want to feel that working. But for now, I'm quite happy with that. Obviously, I'm missing information like frequency and whatever this kind of spiral thing is that I carry on doing. So let's look at the clock. So the clock is a different kind of thing because unlike this, where it's all plastic, there's no metal involved. This is a metal object with probably cardboard or something, and there is technically glass here, but I'm not putting that just yet. Again, something that admittedly I kind of forgot to put it in. So I can go back, adjust that, just like I'm going to do my lava lamp, and then make some adjustments. I'm not worrying if I've forgotten something or anything like that. I'm absolutely not worrying about that. Because if I do need to re-upload the scene and some things don't actually get applied, or nothing gets applied, I've already got all my stuff set up here in my folder, so I just reapply it. All good. We're not going to worry about anything. So let's jump into Photoshop and let's do some mechanical clock stuff. So I've got everything here so far. This is all my color stuff. So I'll put that in a group, call it color. I'm going to make a new group, call it metal. I'm going to make another group, call it roughness. And that's probably the only things I'm going to use for now. When I bring in my glass, I'm probably going to have an opacity layer in here. But for now, that's cool. Right, so the metal map, this is going to be stupid easy. It's either black or white. It's either metal or it's not. So I'm going to lay down a layer of white first in the metallic map, the metalness map. This is communicating that whatever's white is metal. And then I'm going to make a black layer. Oh, not a black. I'm going to make black components, black areas, which are going to be the face and the hands. Although, do I want the hands to be plastic or do I want the hands to be metal? I think I'm going to make them plastic. So let's turn those off. Let's take away all the metallic values of that. Everything else, though, I'm feeling that it's metal. I'm going to save that out. And I'm still saving stuff out as 1024. Admittedly, there might be a point, because I am using a lot of maps, there might be a point where it goes, hey, that's too many I can't process that amount of information. You know, I might hit a file limit, a file size limit. At that point, I have to go in and then start kind of making things the output size. You know, my 1024, or even bring it way down for smaller objects. For instance, my pencils are 2048. They absolutely don't need to be that size. I just did it just to kind of rush the process through. But these will go down to like 512, if that. Very, very simple stuff. Where's my Photoshop? That's my Photoshop. So let's do roughness. Okay, so roughness. I'm going to make my baseline roughness level, which is, let's just go for now, grey. So that's a mid roughness level. So remember, the higher the value, the whiter the value, the rougher it is. So I'm going to go for my clock face being quite light, not white, but pretty white, pretty bright. So let's get that, and let's drag that about there. So it's not quite white, but it's a bit big, bit bright, bit big. That. My exposed metal sections, I want those to be quite shiny. Actually, no, I'm going to flip it. My exposed metal sections, I'm going to have be duller. So what I can do is actually come into my color and actually grab those. I can come into my magic wand, and that's my bare metal. So I don't want to do this for all the bare metal sections, but I do. No, I do. So I'm going to go around, just magic wand on my bare metal sections. Come back into my roughness. And then decide my roughness value. So color midway, yeah, about just slightly lighter than now mid tone. Then everything else is just taking the base value, this value. So let's go for now lowest, highest, mid. And I'm only doing flat values on this as well, so I'm not really changing anything. I'm not really doing anything like any detailing or anything. So the rest of it to be quite shiny, and I'm just going to use that just as a flat and just gauge my overall values. So see if it balances right with each other, because maybe I'm thinking, oh, maybe the grey metal sections, the bare metal sections, maybe that needs to be shinier than the red sections. But I'm thinking the red could be some sort of like enameled metal where it's like quite shiny, and then this is kind of bare metal or kind of like a burnished steel kind of thing, so it's going to be duller. Obviously this probably going to be made of plastic or something, or maybe cardboard, so it's going to be rougher. And then my hands, to make them jump off the surface, I'm going to make them shinier. But then when I come to do my actual texture on the front of this, I'm probably going to make my numbers a bit shiny. So they'll be darker numbers. So my roughness, let's apply my roughness and my metallics actually, let's drag both of them. So there we go. So right there I can see that's working nicely. Let's go to my metalness. Let's find that metalness. Right, so probably might need to control this a little bit. Because I don't necessarily want it to be like super chrome like this. So I can just pull it back a little bit just to, yeah. Because I'm not affecting the actual roughness map itself. I'm just affecting the intensity of it. So I'm still getting the same reflections you would still get off a metallic surface, but I'm just kind of pulling them back a little bit. Because for me, that's too intense. That's too powerful. So if I bring that back a little bit, looks a bit nicer. So you can see the scene really nicely coming together. And I'd be working through this, constantly working, kind of going from prop to prop to prop, just making my changes, gradually making my changes. And then if I want to, like for instance, I probably need to scale down my stationery. So let's go back to Photoshop. Let's find my stationery. Let's do this. But let's make my width a lot smaller. Let's make it 2x6. 2x6. Yeah. So that I'm nowhere near bombarding Sketchfab with that amount of detail anymore. Like that. And then while I'm here, I might as well make some roughness and metallicness. So you see here as well, I've been a bit cheeky and I've made it all on one layer, which is really, really basic. So let's make my metal. And let's make my roughness. So I'm being a bit kind of rough with this one because it's a very, very small object. For this as well, I don't really want to harp on over and over again about the same stuff. So for this case, I'm just going to wing it. Make sure I do have my UVs on though. So this is my metallic. So nothing's metallic except for that bit. So I'm choosing my magic wand there. Oh. My roughness map is going to be a bit different. So let's find that baseline grey. So this is going to be the wood section, the pencil body section. So boom. So then use my magic wand. I know that I've got a little layer there. So this is going to be quite rough. Just line that up a little bit. But then my lead is going to be quite shiny, or it's going to be shinier. Because lead is a little bit shiny. Or graphite. There you go. So my metal section there, that's going to be the same intensity as my lead here. And my rubber at the end, I'm actually going to make this really rough because rubber is quite a rough material. Make it quite bright. Like that. Very basic. So you can see how I'm just not really worrying too much. I'm just doing really big basics. And again, I'm going to do this. So this is my roughness. 256. That. So again, with that Control Alt Shift W. 256. Yeah. Stationery. Metal. This. Jump back to here. Grab that. These textures. Right, I'm going to delete my current stationery one. So I delete that, make it white, I'm going to import textures, and I'm going to find my stationery stuff, bring it in. That's my color, that's my metalness. So now we should have a nice metallic surface there. That nice and nice. And then for my roughness, nice. Really small stuff. And I could go in there and I could, make adjustments to it. I could add like little rim, like sort of like the grasping areas around the top of this, little ridges that are imprinted it to hold it to the pencil. I could go in there and make those quite basic stuff, but I'm not going to worry too much about it because it's just basic stuff, basic. So what I'm actually going to do is go in and actually fix up some stuff that I've noticed. I'm going to put some stuff in that I should have put in before. For instance, the glass on the front of this. I'm going to put a screen here, but then I'm also thinking we might have an issue with transparency. But let's give it a try. And I'm going to show you what we might have to do when we re-upload objects, because every now and then you do have to re-upload your models because you've forgotten to do something. You have to update it, or maybe while you're texturing it, you're thinking, oh, you know what, post-it notes. You know what, something that's geometric you can't get through texture. So jumping into Maya. let's fix up this first. So, just going to grab the two offending areas, isolate them off, and I can see clearly that I've not done that bit. So, soften edge. Oh, oh, that was spooky. So the soften edge. I don't know what that was then. I think that was like a bit of a Maya graphical error. Okay, that's cool. That's fixed. All right. Where can I put this inside here? I can put it somewhere. So I'm not going to change the UVs at all. In fact, I am going to change the UVs. Actually, I'm going to slightly alter them. Oh, I got a crash. Okay, so let's recover this. So here we've got a crash. That was great. Fatal error did the dirt. So remember, this is giving us the information of where this new recovery file is going to get stored. So I'm going to go here. So you can click that, let it kill itself off. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Right. Windows key R, % sign update at % sign. Go to app data local. Come down to temp. Do the latest. There we go. So I'm going to just copy this to my desktop. And then in a fresh version of Maya, which I serendipitously had opened up, I can reopen that file. And I'm just going to save that. So, you know, I'm in there, I'm making adjustments to my UVs, it crashes. Like I said, UVing is something which it will probably crash at, so be prepared to make those adjustments. See. Right. Nothing is lost. Right, let's do that again. Especially want to try and stack this on top of. So what I'm doing here is just changing something very, very subtly. So both my bells are going to carry the exact same texture. I'm not going to do much to it. These are going to be quite basic, so overlapping in this case is okay. What I'm also not going to do for this is apply that, or well, if I do, I'm going to make adjustments here. The ambient occlusion thing, I probably don't need to do it too much. All I'm doing that for is just give myself space here. Close this for now. Save. I'm going to grab this face here. Like that. I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to move it forward a little bit. Go there. And then I'm going to be moving this forward a little bit. And then I'm going to add some edges going around because I'm doing something that's a bit kind of like technical here, a little bit. I basically want to have this be a convex shape, almost like a lens. So I'll make one going round. I'll make a few going around, make three going round, yeah. Transform, nope. Transform, one more forward. Go. Right, so that, if I combine that back in, I should have now in my UV. Should have this. Now this is going to move over here and go here. In fact, these are going to just scale down a little bit. So I'm actually, after the fact, after I've started texturing, I'm actually making some big adjustments. Again, this will have me going in and kind of changing some stuff up, but really what I've done, I'm not really losing anything. I'm not really losing anything at all. because all I'm doing is just rearranging the UVs at a basic level, and it's just a really early stage, because this is going to become my glass at the front, like I said. So now what I can do is save this out. Boop. This is going to be my, I don't know if it still goes to crate. It goes my props. Scene, images. This is going to be my mechanical clock. Boom, boom. So if I apply that, yep, cool. If I jump back into Photoshop now, go to my mechanical clock with my UVs here. I'm going to delete them. So unlock them, delete them. Come in, place embedded my new mechanical clock UV. I'll make sure it's actually correct in the world, which it is. So now, the only thing I really need to change is just the, yeah. What do we need to change? Let's have a look first. Okay, so here, I'm going to leave this red because this is going to get taken away anyway. This is going to become useless information because I'm going to use an opacity map to control this section. So make opacity. Opacity. Let's fill this with a layer black, and everything else around it is going to be white. Let's just make sure it's not going too close to anything else. Some just lean areas that are getting a little bit too close to the UVs. Like that. That. If anything, actually, you know what, I'm going to just make this black on the UV sheet as well. On the color sheet, sorry. Right. Okay, so my color map is this now. So my belts are still red. I'm just stacking them on top of each other. Like I said, if I do my ambient occlusion bake later on, there might be some issues with this. I'll cross them when I get there. If I do it, like I said. Okay, my metalness. Cool. Well, this isn't metal, so let's get rid of this. So again, what I'm going to do is just magic wand that shape, and then in my metalness, I go, no, that's not metal because glass is not metal. My roughness, this is very shiny, so I'm not going to go black, but I'm going to go very dark. And again, let me just magic wand that shape, and then I'm going to fill it in there. And the opacity, cool, right then, so that's done. So let me just grab that. So this is my roughness map, so let's grab my mechanical clock roughness, replace that, yes. Let's go for my mechanical clock opacity, which is not, oops, wrong one, which is not a map I've made just yet. Back. Metalness. And my color, because I've changed a little bit of the color. Make sure I'm just suffixing it the right thing. Right, back into Photoshop. Right, so, oh well, let me do the clock as well while I'm here, so I don't have to double up on stuff. So, same thing with the clock here. What I'm going to do is make a plane which basically sits over top of this, and I'm going to use this. And just be a little bit careful about how I move stuff around. So what I'm going to do is duplicate it And I'm already identifying where I can put this, so I'm probably going to put it in this area here. I'm not going to move any of the UVs around in this. So I'm going to duplicate this, duplicate it, then I can move it forward, move to the side, I can scale it up. So I'm using the tools that the duplicate function kind of gives me to move it around, because what I want to do is just basically put it in the front of everything. Do that. Oops. Cool. So what I've done there is I've duplicated the same object as my little red section. So obviously inside the UV editor, I'll do save so it doesn't crash again. It sits in the same position, but I don't want that, because if I now grab it, what I want to do is move it so you can see the UV's changing a little bit. And I'm going to just squish it in somewhere. I'm going to squish it in here. Because again, what I want to do is use this as essentially a glass plane, which will leave me going into Photoshop again. Make sure we're saving that. Go into my DigiClock. Oh, I need to get my new UVs out, so. Yep, it's fine. No, that's my DigiClock, so make sure I'm doing the right one. DigiClock. Apply, override, yep. To Photoshop. W. Place embedded the new DigiClock UVs. There you go. Make sure they're in the right position, which they are. So up here, now I've got my little section. So nothing from the emission, nothing from the color. Opacity. Let's make this black. Summation there. Like that. And my roughness. I think roughness is actually pretty good. So all it is my opacity map needs changing. So some of you might be thinking, well, when you do an opacity map, it basically makes the color disappear. It affects the color channels. But things like null maps and specular maps and roughness maps and stuff, it doesn't affect. So what's going to happen here is the color is going to disappear. This is going to become translucent, transparent. But the shiny nature of my roughness map is going to hold out, which is quite cool. In fact, I'm going to do something while I'm here, just to kind of do something fun. I'm going to make I've got to think I've got to do. Right, I'm going to select this, copy it, and I'm going to basically paste this into a new layer on my roughness. So boom, right there. So it's very, very shiny. What I'm going to do is grab this, go to filter, go to noise, dust scratches. I'll make sure I'm in black and white. I've got black and white. Noise, dust scratches. This is not going to work on. No, okay. So what I'm going to do actually is going to apply a generate a render clouds. There we go. That's what I want to do. And then I'm going to go to noise, dust scratches. knock that back a bit. Basically, what I'm doing there is I'm making a little bit of like transition to the surface. So it's not just a flat, plain, smooth gradient or a flat, smooth surface. This is going to give it a little bit of tooth, a little bit of kind of interest. So this is my roughness. Roughness. Yep. I have the new opacity map. Yeah, so this is my opacity. Nothing else is changing. Emission, nothing's changing. And that's not changing. So, right. So now we've got this. I'm going to grab everything. I'm going to export all this again. Let's send that out as an OBJ. Sorry, there's been many here or something. So we're going to here. Basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just save. I'm just going to save these settings. Save the scene settings. Okay, come out. I'm going to re-upload. I'm going to re-upload that thing I've just done. But scenes folder, scene OBJ. Re-upload. So it might take a little bit of time. Everything looks pretty good. So if I go to my 3D settings, let me see my glass in there. So I've got to check to see if stuff's actually working. Okay, so no, so I must have saved this out to the wrong destination. Prop scene scenes. Scene updated. So let me just back out of here. Yep, leave. There you go. And I want to go to edit properties. I want to re-upload. Get updated. Bring that in. Re-upload model. Okay. Okay, so we got an upload error here. Okay. Okay, so not sure what was happening. I've had to re-upload the entire model from scratch. Not a big deal. I'm just going to go through the whole process again, but it meant I was uploading the new version anyway. So let's just go through this process again. I'm going to go through, sort out some of these settings, make my thing like that, make it a bit darker, not quite as bright. Got my shadows on. I'm going to bring the intensity down a little bit. Rotate around. Bring on materials. So don't matter what material I'm going to start off with. I'm just going to grab everything. So there should be all the updated ones. If not, I'll be able to quickly kind of change them out. Okay, so just let you go through and applying everything as a base color first. So I might have duplicates of bad, well, unneeded. Like for instance, this digiclock is not my proper one, so I'm going to delete that. Same for this one. I got like an old clock mech, or mech clock material, so get rid of that. Just have to go around, reapply everything. It's a bit of a pain, but it's okay. And then we can go around and start affecting all the things we need to. So luckily, with it being a alphabetical order, this is quite a simple, quick process to go through. So you can see how that with that text, it kind of makes it more kind of vibrant. Oh, interesting. Okay, so something just to kind of look into, the fact that we've got a slight error with that. That's okay, I'm going to leave that for now. I can come back to that, because there's obviously something wrong with it, so we're going to have to just do a little bit of checking. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure why that's doing what it's doing there. But let's carry on. So for this, remember that I'm doing a single-sided face. Yeah. And then the opacity. Cool. And then the emission. Cool. Cool. So let's have a look at this clock. So what I'm looking at here is the possibility that some of my values are not quite strong enough. I'm not getting black or white values. So where's my Photoshop? There it is. Where's my mech clock? Where's my opacity for this? So I'm worrying that this white here isn't actually white. Okay, so I don't know if you can, yeah. So it was this which looked white, but then if I actually put a actual white, 100% white on there. Okay, so very, very small change there. Let's take this back out. I'm going to replace that with mech clock opacity. And then all I'm going to do is re-upload the opacity. There we go, so you can see it's fixing the background. There we go. There you go. Oh, we're gonna have my opacity for the desk as well. Sorry, it's going very, very quiet while I'm doing this. So yeah, it's, as you can see, it's just the same things over and over again, adding this real depth to the object, depth to the scene. It's super easy, super fun, and there's a lot of just like checking, make sure it looks okay. If it doesn't look okay, why does it look okay? Make adjustments. Cup falling off my desk. Coffee everywhere. It's basically just that. So then I'd go in there and I'd start thinking about, roughness values of, because this is very, very flat, but I could think about, like where, again, think illustrationally. Think if you were drawing and painting this, where would the roughness be on this? I'm thinking probably roughness there and there, on these two sides where this hammer's been smashing it. Where there might be roughness on this. Where there might be roughness on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video here, or end these series of videos here, and then come back and just because I'm going to update the scene again, but with a new lava lamp, because I'm going to do the how to make the goop in the lava lamp and how to unwrap the lava lamp and stuff, and how to approach something like this if you want to do something a little bit more goopy, and show you some of the things of why I've actually set the lava lamp up like this, with this like inverted face system going on.